Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us at AdLift's second edition of its Drive Digital webinar series. It's an action-packed webinar with some of the best experts within their field speaking to us about how to navigate the pandemic marketing labyrinth that all of us are in to drive sales and leads this festive season. We've got Diwali around the corner. We're sort of in the thick of pandemic season. So how do we actually really catapult and drive sales? That's what we're going to be here talking about. We've got Vaibhav Kumar, who is the Vice President and Head of E-commerce Digital Marketing at Max Life Insurance. We've got Nirmal Polikal, the Head of India at Facebook's Creative Shop. We've got Jayadhar Gupta, founder and CEO of Nirvana, being a leading mass air purification online company. We've got Sonali Singh, brand and digital marketing lead at Bosch and Siemens. And we've got Namit Pontis, VP of Marketing and Strategic Initiatives at PayU. And I myself am Prashant Puri. I'm the CEO co-founder of AdLift. Really quick introduction about AdLift. We're a niche digital marketing agency. We've been around for close to 11 years, working across a number of F500s, startups across the board in the last 11 years globally as well as in APAC. Quick introduction, as I kind of thought about this morning, we're kind of in a space where we sort of start to think about essential and non-essential, and something that came to mind was all the core speakers here that we have today all head up essential products in today's day and age. So we've got Vaibhav, who heads up Max Life Insurance. You can't do without my life insurance today. Facebook, I don't think there's anyone who doesn't have Instagram, Facebook, or WhatsApp globally. PayU in some way or form, we're using PayU's payment gateway, whether it's ordering through Zomato or paying through goods. Sonali heads up Bosch, which is your sort of home appliance. You can't do without that. Your washing machine, your refrigerator. And Jay, who heads up Nirvana, which is masks, which is one of the most essential products today. So really kicked to have all you guys here as part of this session. With that, I will begin with our first question of this morning. For Vaibhav, this is actually, we're going to go round robin for this one. So we'll start with Vaibhav and then move on to Nirmal, Namit, Sonali, and Jay. So Vaibhav, we're kind of 8 months now into the pandemic. Lots has changed, right? So from an evolving trends, consumer as well as customer behavior, what are some of the trends that you're actually seeing within your space?
Thanks, Prashant. Thanks, first up, for this opportunity to be part of such a cool panelist group. Yeah, thank you so much. I think, Prashant, frankly, as the initial shock of this crisis has worn off, I think the entire world is in a period of adjustment. I think the equilibrium being reestablished by loads of new habits being adopted, and re-examination of existing ones, and as they always say, on an average, it takes about 66 days to form new habits, right? After all. So really, I see three big trends really, and I'll try to articulate the way I see and the way we at Max Life see it. There's a big acceleration. The big trend that has accelerated is digital as the gate to the future. I think the digital consumption has gone through the roof. There's a 50% plus search in do-it-yourself queries. I mean, interesting 3x growth in pizza recipes, right? In terms of search, 120% growth, in searches for online psychiatrists or shrinks in this country. As I'm talking about India right now. Huh? So for us, really, in the life insurance category, we've experienced a significant demand for purchase of and digital servicing, especially online purchase. I mean, the term insurance, the core risk product that a life insurance company provides, the search grew by almost 100% year on year in the first quarter, and you've been party to that conversation with us for such a long time. I mean, we never imagined actually, globally, nobody imagined that, 1/4 of a reasonably large size life insurer like us, 1/4 of our customers have actually been acquired in the last 6 months through what we call as B2C, through digital door, directly through our platforms. which is really, really huge, because this number was about 12% last year, same time. So it's almost doubled in terms of number of customers we acquired digitally now. And, health and wellness was always important, but again, thanks to this big digital as a gateway to future, it's simply accelerated. So I think the big trend that is simply accelerated in these times is the digital as the gateway to the future. I think that I see the second trend I see, which is a slight reversal, or I wouldn't say a reversal, but an indication of what was happening before this pandemic hit us as a country and as a world. Suddenly, there's huge hyper value consciousness here, and there's a preference for these bite-sized propositions. Saving it up, smarter and longer term. The two narratives we at life insurance category see dominant. Are be careful what I spend on. Look for cheaper propositions, but with a trusted brand. I think these are two narratives that are seemingly dominant now. People operating out of their homes, spending power getting toned down, willingness to pay for things that matter most. That we've seen significantly. I mean, that being said, interestingly, the willingness to pay for online games, I believe, has gone through the roof. I mean, it's crazy actually, and I mean, we never, I mean, I don't think earlier we ever had purchase for ergonomic chair or dishwasher, right? Which has just gone through the roof again, as I was talking to the Google team a couple of weeks back. So clearly, and in our category, life insurance, we say, people are willing to pay more for protection products, pure life insurance products, as we call, and for guarantees. If there's a guarantee available in terms of a full locked-in contract guarantee, the customer is game, and and therefore we see a significantly high value consciousness right now in these times. The third really, Prashant and team really is the remote way of living. I think it's a new habit. I mean, you can see my background. I'm operating for the last 6 months out of my kids' room because my daughter is more conscious about her background and she's doing her online school. So she prefers to take the office and I get to operate out of her room. So really from an in-person sales, across categories, we've all transitioned to what we call as home-to-home selling, or, at Max Life, we call as heart-to-heart selling, right? Because despite all this, or the supply chain being broken, we've actually grown, as a category, grown significantly in life insurance. And the most important part, I think, the consumers, the agents and bankers to be fully enabled to support or service them digitally. So I think this new habit I see is remote way of living. So really, acceleration, digital as the gateway to the future, reversal of a trend, hyper value consciousness, and a new habit I see is the remote way of living. That's really taken up.
Awesome. Nirmal, do we have you here? Can you hear us?
Yes,
I know
yes,
you're facing webcam issues, but
yeah, sorry, that's because I think my company laptop has blocked this software for video. For some reason, they've allowed audio. So apologies for that, but I can attend as a stalker. But yeah, I mean, is the mic, passed on to me now about the evolving trends?
yes, it is.
Okay, so very quickly, I think what we're seeing on our platform is two things. Okay, one is you see an acceleration of existing trends, so all the obvious stuff. So increase in e-com, digital payments, a more smart shopping. In fact, there's high salience of digital research. Digitally influenced purchases have increased, I think, 20% in urban consumers in the last 3 months alone, which is just the pure lockdown era. We're also seeing new habits being formed with the increased familiarity with virtual experiences as Facebook Live and IG Live take off. There's been a 60% increase in IG Live views in just 1 week during early lockdown. And we've seen everything from music events to Easter Mass from the Vatican being broadcast live on our platforms. Yeah, and over and above that, I think just echoing some of the things that other people are saying, there you are seeing one trend towards a lot of value conscious utility spending, as well as a smaller percentage of carpe diem spending. So it's all happening. That's what's happening on our platform.
Awesome. And Namit, trends within the payments vertical with PayU? Lots has changed.
Absolutely. So hi everyone, Namit here from PayU. Very happy to be here. We have the unique advantage of being the payments engine of without being boastful, I would like to say the top 1,000 brands on one side, as well as a few million SMEs on the other end. So we can really see where the economy is going, what kind of trends there are, and we've seen some very interesting stuff. A couple of things right now at this point of time, in terms of overall payment processing or in terms of businesses picking up, we're seeing that at least across, just like Vaibhav mentioned, a few categories are bouncing back. Food delivery, e-commerce, all of these, people are at home but want to consume. And hence these kind of businesses in this space are definitely seeing, I wouldn't, in fact, it isn't even pre-COVID levels. I think they've now shot beyond that, which means that where they were in January, they're already at not about a 1x, they're close to a 1.5x, because it's just a significant change in behavior. People are stuck at home, but they want to order things. They want to, whether it's food or other consumables, we're seeing those kind of behaviors significantly changing. And to be very honest, it is a sustained graph, which means it just isn't a spike. So I don't know if that's going to go down anytime soon. I think that change in behavior has happened where people are more comfortable ordering online, and with that comes all other interactions. So we've seen a lot of conversational commerce happening, where previously what would happen is it was just a sales or support channel where people would reach out to you over WhatsApp, or people would reach out to you over chat and ask you questions. Now on those channels, it isn't just about, hey, something isn't working. It's also about, hey, do you have a variant? Or hey, can I buy this? Or can I do this, right? So there's a lot of conversational commerce that's also started going up. Payments have become pervasive. The unintended consequences of the lockdown has been that a lot of people have been pushed towards adopting a lot of digital mediums. So I know for a fact that, some time ago, we've had systemic incentives for people to move, but this time around it has been that, genuinely people want to stay away from cash. At least people who can want to transact digitally, want to transact without meeting you face to face, and a lot of digital impetus is coming there. So which is one on the digital behavior. The other interesting thing that we're seeing is that, the way to look at it is two things, right? Is that the pandemic has hit a bunch of people very hard, which means that a lot of companies have retrenched and people are out of a job. So that's one. On the other end, a lot of people that we see, not just in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, but also in metropolitans, who were always on some sort of a side gig, right? They were doing something at home. There was something that was on the side. They've now moved to looking at that not just as a side gig, but as their main gig. And we're seeing a lot of businesses start up, right? And the good part is that they aren't just starting up, they've started to now thrive. These are smart people who understand how the internet works, are largely digitally native, understand how do I use Facebook, how do I use Instagram, how do I engage with my prospective customers. They're going out there, they're setting up smaller businesses, smaller brands, but those are picking up. And I think a lot of the churning of the economy will come from here. A lot of new businesses will get started, as, like I said, right, as an unintended consequences of retrenchment. But a lot of people are looking at their side gigs as their main gigs. That's the second one that we've seen. And the third one we've seen is, a lot of large brands, even extremely large brands, even people who are, let's say, 100+ years old, have never needed or never had an impetus to move to completely digital. It's been that, I operate in a particular way. I have a distributor, and then I have a wholesaler, and then I have a retailer, and they take my goods out. And a lot of these brands, which are extremely large, have suddenly realized that, hey, you know what if I put up a store myself and let people come to me? And exactly like what Vaibhav mentioned, right? They started this as an experiment, and I think we're about 4 or 5 months into this experiment, and a lot of these brands have set up their own D2C, right? Instead of buying this product from your local kirana or buying it from somewhere, why don't you just come to me and buy it from me, right? The brand presence exists, the trust exists. Why don't you just buy it from me? And these are large, old businesses, right? And they're trying to take these strides into figuring out how to do this. And you will see this across multiple brands. These are some of the things that we've seen. I'll leave the other insights for later. I have a few points noted down on the systemic changes that we've seen. I see it as, there is a churn that's happening, and people are trying to figure out how to make the best of it. There are tools available, there are ecosystems available, and I genuinely hope that people can figure how to leverage these for the best and literally come out significantly transformed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Quick nugget of information. We were talking to some of the juggernaut brands within the hair appliance space, right? Who've been traditionally selling on Amazon, and they didn't, e-commerce wasn't even set up. And you pretty much walk into any store and you'll see a Vega in some way or form, whether it's a nail cutter or a hair straightener, right? And we were talking to them back in Jan and Feb, and they're like, no, don't touch our website. Like, we don't want to drive performance. And we're like, no, that's what you need to do. They're like, no. And then, come COVID, and they're like, okay, why do we need to rely on Amazon? Because there's this whole, inventory and getting things done in COVID time, that's it. So lots of these, folks who've been selling for the last 8-9 years are like, driving. You kind of see that in and out. Sonali, your 2 cents on what's evolving within your home and appliance space as we get into Diwali, which is, I believe, really huge for you guys.
Thank you, Prashant. It's nice to be here today. And yes, like you said, it is one of the most interesting category segment which everyone would be watching. And yes, we have never had preparation for this kind of a Diwali, so it will be a very interesting and one of its kind. So definitely looking at the consumer experience and behavior shift, I would say clearly now, the kitchens have been arising more of a hangout place in the houses, and not just the place wherein, the females would cook and make the foods ready. So it's more conversation driven approach of buying the appliances today. And we have been seeing a very phenomenal surge over the last few months. The searches for the categories have not been very high before. And not forgetting to mention the dishwashers, as we have already quoted. So we have never experienced that kind of a demand, and we have been very happy with the kind of response we have received so far. So not just providing utility to the consumers, it's more of creating that functional aspect and delivering the promises which they are looking for. So it's a big responsibility on us as well. While we are going and vouching for the new products and the new range into the appliance category, we want to be consistent wherein it comes to the everyday requirement and need of the household appliances. And that's what in the last couple of months we have seen more. It's every day you will require to visit the kitchen n number of times, or the way you operate with your refrigerator has totally changed. Some of the times it can be just exploring with your family, working on new recipes. So the new bakers have taken a place, they have born. So we are trying to engage with consumers with these new pieces while helping them virtually, guiding them. And yes, they have, like, the major questions are on how, when, where. So education of course, the technology is right there. But yes, it's been a tremendous and phenomenal growth in terms of consumption of the appliances. And if I talk about, there has been a new news from our PM, which you would have come across, which is of claiming LTA in terms of buying appliances. So we are, of course, watching on this new scheme. And yes, the festive season is all set. It looks positive as of now.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sonali. Jay, when we talk about evolving trends, you're pretty much sitting on that, that paramount right there, right? You're in the air purification mask space. So things have pretty much catapulted for the way better.
Yeah. So yes, totally. I mean, it's been transformational for us. So I'm a victim of air pollution, and I've spent 6 years of my life raising consciousness about our breath. Today is one of those unusual days that I'm not on a webinar wearing a t-shirt that says you are what you breathe. Usually that's my uniform. So that's what I've been trying to do. And actually, COVID helped me achieve that consciousness overnight. It's interesting. On one side, we are in the business of high performance masks, and which was a very, very seasonal business, largely in North India. And then we had some customers across the nation. This is prior to COVID. We had customers who had cancer or heart disease or respiratory problems who would buy our product to feel better. And of course, thanks to COVID, not only did we move production, which was outsourced to a player in Korea, now all the production is in India. But we are clearly focused on becoming the global Indian mask brand. So we're already in the US, we've launched in Singapore, we've launched in Taiwan, we've launched in Dubai. We have about 15 other markets in the pipeline. Again, all the manufacturing is in Gurgaon, and we've created a product that, according to the lab that tested it in the US, is absolutely unmatched. It's the highest filtration and the lowest breathing resistance, so highest in comfort. The other business that we're in is we go into large offices, homes, and buildings. For example, the UNICEF headquarters or PVR cinemas. I'm just naming some of our clients, or the Imperial Hotel, or the JW Marriott, or the American Express headquarters. And we add ventilation and filtration systems there to mitigate risk from air pollution and now COVID. That's the other business we're in. So, definitely we're on the other side of things when it comes to getting, being impacted. We've seen an exponential growth. I think the big paradigm shift for our country is, prior to COVID, health and hygiene and well-being were never in the top 10 list of priorities. I think that's the big transformation that's come out of this. So I was on a Johns Hopkins, all these geeky doctors, 30, 40 of them around the world, doctors of public health. And as early as January, I got put on a WhatsApp chat because of my work on air pollution. And I got a very early peek into COVID, probably earlier than even people in the Indian government. And I think by mid-January, I knew that India would probably be the most impacted country in the world. I didn't think we'd be neck to neck with the United States, but I definitely knew that India would be up there. The focus on health and hygiene that has come out of this, I think it's going to stay. I can't imagine anybody being in a train or a bus or a metro or an airplane for the next decade or even longer without a mask, without a bloody good mask. So that's the big transformation there. Certainly, you guys have all spoken about the move towards digital. That's also here to stay. I mean, we have offline stores as well, and we retail through almost every supermarket, convenience store, high-end store format. We're seeing very, soft sales offline. It's really, the game is all online, and maybe more so for us because the product is a very visual product as well. So it's all online. For me personally, the other change has been that I've had to move to a bigger home. Now, with working from home, and the boys, I have 2 boys, with them also kind of doing their virtual classes from home and whatnot. Instead of moving out of the city, I've had to kind of get a bigger place in the city. So higher cost structure, but it is what it is.
Awesome. And that kind of segues, from digital, we're speaking to Jay, who's got a fair mix of both brick and mortar as well as digital. And, from the horse's mouth, digital is sort of the way forward. Question for Vaibhav, one of the core verticals, that I know from our often speaking is content marketing, right? So how has that evolved? How important do you think it is content marketing, from an always on perspective, as well as, now into festive season? Do you turn it up? Do you dial it down? What are your thoughts on content marketing, Vaibhav?
So let me try and put it this way. when we look at our own conversion algorithms, Prashant and team, we clearly see that 20% of our converted customers actually engage with our blogs and content organically, prior to purchase. And all our attribution models, when we move out of the last click trap and try and look, take a zoomed out view, we clearly see that the time spent on the consumption of content is the most potent input to drive conversion. Now the problem is that is all bottom funnel, right? The consumer is high intent, he's come in, so content becomes as an assistant to the conversion engine, right? I mean, in our multivariate bottom funnel conversion equation, it has the highest weightage actually whenever we look at it. But while we've invested heavily on content for long tail keywords and organic reach, I would be let me be candid here. We've just tested waters with content marketing, as such. I mean, we started with native ad placement as one disciplined experiment, and currently in progress with an A/B test on landing a customer on lead versus engagement page. So really, for us, content marketing per se, in terms of amplifying advertising our content, is not something that we've really kicked off. We tried it earlier, Prashant, let me be frank, and we didn't have a great experience. Maybe, I mean, I think the key to content marketing is finding out the right attribute to measure, right? Having the right KPI. I think a lot of times you get trapped in having the wrong KPI when you're having content marketing. So we are trying to avoid that trap and moving it gradually towards that piece. But sure, what we're doing right now, at least from a content perspective, is loads of energy, and that on organic discovery, long tail keyword. I think there's where the future lies for this. For I think all digital ecosystems, that's what the future is going to be: long tail keywords, and of course the tough one, yeah, landing a customer on content instead of lead page, the perennial trade-off. But yeah, I mean, I'm in for that trade-off at least for native advertisement placements. So that's where we are on content. But I think is it important and relevant? I think every consumer today, given the current situation, is not willing to purchase without consuming content or taking a referral. I don't think those days are gone when you just put on an ad and you say, I'm so cool, buy me. Sorry, go back home, please. Unless you are offering a 50% discount, right? That works. That's number one. Number two is you have great content backing you up and great reviews, and of course, in our category, a lot of referrals. I mean, nothing works in our category like a referral or a relevant content that explains it to the consumer. So that's where we are.
Namit, your viewpoint on content and content driving content marketing, whether it's through social or creating native content, what are your thoughts here?
Sure. So we look at it two ways. One is the kind of things that we're doing for PayU ourselves, right? Which is the one part, and the second one is that what are we recommending to all the businesses who come online, right? So when we have those conversations, what are the recommendations that we're making to them? So one is that we believe, at least at PayU, we believe very, very strongly in content. We've been actively investing, and by investing, I mean in terms of content creation, content distribution, content augmentation, essentially ensuring that it's available across all the platforms where our prospective customers or prospective users might be. We've been investing in that heavily for the last 2 years, right? And the investment has been with a very, very long-term view. So we're not looking at these as conversion funnel. We're saying that we're out there, we're investing in this because we know for a fact that this increases our sphere of influence. It takes us higher up the conversion funnel. People experience us as a brand before they think about going into payments, right? Because the logical journey is that people are going to go to an e-commerce website or an e-commerce store and then think of payments, right? We're saying, let's relook at that and say, how can we put enough content out there without saying that I am going to put this out there because I expect conversions from this? Of course, it's optimized, right? So we look at SEO, we have keyword pillars, that's fine. But the idea here is, how do we genuinely look at putting together content that's helpful with an intent to give back rather than saying with an intent to drive a purchase, or in our case, drive a sign up, right? And on that front, we've actually created over 600 to 800 individual topic specific blogs over the last 2 years. We've augmented those into slides. We've augmented those into videos, right? Because people want to consume things very, very differently. Now, the beauty of that is that while the intent has been to give back, the segment has given back too, which means that as of today, almost 80% of our leads are organic. These are people who find us, who come, and the numbers are significantly high, right? And when I speak to others in the industry, I know the kind of money people spend to acquire these leads. The two things that happens at our end is, one, 80% of our leads are organic. And the second and the most important one is the organic leads end up behaving better once they're in the funnel, because we haven't attracted them with, can I give you a discount? Can I give you a lower pricing? Can I give you a time bound offer, right? No, they've found us, they've read us, they believe in the story, they think we can add value. We've already added value in that funnel, and now they're saying, great, if PayU has done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, why can't I also trust them with payments? So the quality of leads coming in from there are significantly high, which is excellent, right? And to kind of further that, so over the last, before COVID hit, we actually spent some time speaking to about 180 to 200 businesses to say, what is it that you need? And the three things that they told us that they need was, one, they needed customers, right, as all businesses do. The second one is they needed credit, right, because we also work with medium-sized businesses, right? And the third thing they said is we need expertise, right? I may have money to spend on Google marketing. I may have money to spend on Facebook marketing, but I don't know how to do that. And I've tried spending money on it, but it just burns, right? That's not their expertise. And I know that we can all learn, but that takes time. Right. So over the last 6 months, what we have done is we actually spoke with a bunch of experts in their own fields, convinced them to create short format, 20-minute, almost explainer sessions, which are actionable, recorded these videos and put up something known as the PayU Academy. Right. It went live just this week. Right. We already have close to a few million views on that because it's very simple. And here it isn't about driving people in the funnel. This is about, if I'm a brand, how do I build a community? And we have somebody who's built a large community to talk about what are the steps that you can take, right? It's a quick 20-minute session, so easy to consume. And the idea is that, how do I build a community? How do I drive ROI on my Instagram marketing? How do I run a referral campaign? While you can read a bunch of stuff around this, the idea is to be able to augment that and do that. So at least at PayU, we are very, very cognizant of how content pays off, and we invest heavily in it, of course, without expecting. So we have clear KPIs for the team, but the expectation behind doing this is not that every word or every video that we put out should ideally lead to conversion. It does. We measure those, but the intent is very different, and which is why we can, kind of average it out. So few of our videos will absolutely go out. I'm happy to even recommend ecosystem partners. So I'm not saying just work with me. I'm saying the best solution for this might not be me. It might be 1, 2, and 3. And I'm happy to do that. And that essentially builds trust in the mind of the reader, which is a prospective customer in the future, saying that's fine. He's not here to sell me. He's here to genuinely educate. We augment the content also with events to essentially say, so now, of course, our events have moved online, which is another form of content where we bring experts and set up these sessions. But even before that, we used to be in 2 cities on every Saturday. And the idea was, great, you want to learn about something as niche as how do you manage GST accounting? You have an accountant, he will do it, but why don't you learn how to do that? I will have a GST expert who comes in Pune for a couple of hours. You can come meet him, meet me, and do that. So we've essentially augmented that as being able to go out, do enough, and then figure out, where it goes. That's what we're doing on content.
Awesome. So thought leaders within segments, right? Talking about how it's done it, and that kind of organically drives views and visibility.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So, piggybacking off that, we've got, we understand organic, pretty much fits within the top, middle, also towards the end, depending on what kind of organic we're talking about, whether it's creatives, whether it's SEO. We've got Nirmal, who's going to kind of walk us through some of the ad trends, right? We're all into festive season, and this is the time I think we're kind of, tweaking those ad spends to drive more top line. So we'll hear it from Nirmal. I'll go ahead and share my screen on some of the creative trends at FB and IG that he thinks are working well. So Nirmal,
oh, excellent.
over to you.
Yeah,
I think go ahead and play this.
No, not yet. Just give me 2 seconds to set it up.
Sure.
So this is I think a lot of it is with the lens of who I work with mostly in my day-to-day. So most of my work is with the top 50 advertisers. So see it from that lens. And also the other thing is that there are good trends and there are bad trends, right? So most of my job is to work with advertising agencies and brands to show them the best practices that can actually push the platform. So I tend to look towards the positives. If you, I mean, of course, there's a lot of, there are about 10 scripts a day I see which start with film opens on family on a Zoom call. Now, I don't want to question that too much because, whether it's a good creative or a bad creative, Facebook still makes money. But at the end of the day, we still, our intervention is just a consultation. So this, some of the trends I'm going to show you is, these are over and above the increase in your regular bread and butter performance and brand campaigns. A lot of this is brand specific, and also with the lens of the constraints on production given the lockdown, because you can't really go out and shoot original content. So a lot of, at least the top 50 brands are, tracking back on that aspect of it. So on the video front, yeah, I think you can just see some of the best practices that we're seeing is that we're seeing, Prashant, you can play it now if you want. Yeah, we're seeing this is a film by Oyo. They did with, an animation. Again, this doesn't require you to go out and shoot. So it's a great tool that you can use to differentiate, and it's not film opens on family on Zoom call. So it's a great way to break the clutter. We're also seeing a lot of imaginative use of other ways of which you can do remote production. So the use of CGI, the use of repurposed footage, even simple things like, which actually add a lot of value in terms of it looks high production, things like costumes. But again, it doesn't look like it's shot in a phone inside your house. Yeah, if you want, you can. I can just gloss over some of these, so you don't have to play all of them. I'll just. So this is again, this is all done on a comp inside a house with no live action production or shoot. But again, I mean, if you look at the quality of it, it just looks slick. So that's that, and you can click the next video, Prashant. Yeah, this, I don't know if the audio is playing, but this is actually what they did was, I think this is Samsung, where they took an earlier footage and they repurposed it using a new song. So they bought rights to a new song and, slapped it over some of their existing footage and repurposed it and made it a new commercial. And the third vertical panel there is actually a Make My Trip ad that we did. We worked with them to do, where we just, Prashant, if you could just click on that one with the sea visual. So there's an ocean visual panel there, right next to the polar bear. Yeah, so this is something that Make My Trip did where they just took a lot of this very ASMR kind of footage and talked to the travel audience. Of course, they were all in lockdown, but it was to tell them that, look, the waves will be back, but stay home. It was one of those early stage messages where brands were telling people to stay home. You can move to the next slide, where I put together some examples of what we're seeing in static. Sorry, the second one, the one that says static. No, I think you've gone to the third one. Yeah, that's fine. So here again, yeah, you are seeing a lot of production at home. The panel on the left is, again, it's a shoot for Vogue Italy, done by Bella Hadid using simple props available at home. Of course, this helps if you have a Vogue art director and you look like Bella Hadid, but everything falls in between. Some of the other things that we're seeing is that there's, of course, a huge use of CGI, especially in auto and other categories where you can use it. And the useful. It's a very useful trick to use on a visual medium like Instagram, and some of the really old school things like copy, which Nike has always used for the last 30-40 years, and they still continue to use it on even new platforms. It's just it still shows how powerful these things are. Quickly, I can just show you, I think there's 2 more slides. This is again an obvious one. We are seeing an increase in virtual experiences, right from music bands to this is the one on the right is Nat Geo talking to filmmakers and directors. The bottom left panel is the Pope live streaming the Easter service from the Vatican. This is something that we already know. And then, of course, there's myriad interactive platforms on Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, everywhere. So you can, use things like polls or AR filters. The image in the middle is actually a storytelling app that's hugely popular now using the filters. And also there's an increased use of bots, because I think, like I mentioned earlier as well, there's a lot of digital research that's happening, and even regardless of whether the final purchase is happening offline or online, a lot of the purchase decisions are being influenced by things that are happening online. So this was a bot that we did with Flipkart last year for their Big Billion Day. There is something in the works this year as well, which I think is going live today. Similar lines, very interactive, using all the tricks at their disposal, which is big celebrities, Amitabh Bachchan, Ranveer, Alia Bhatt, and getting them to interact with the various items on sale. That's it. I think I've hogged too much time in your panel. Prashant, back to you.
Not at all, not at all. Super informative. Some really, I won't say do it yourself, obviously. Well, the Bella Hadid did look like do it yourself, but like you mentioned, you'd need her there to help you. But I mean, these are the kind of I think ideas that we're looking forward to. So thanks for sharing that. Question to Sonali. We'll begin with Sonali on this. During festive time, that we at an agency, when we were kind of working with brands where they're not, this is into COVID, they've not looked at like digital a lot. But a question we get a lot is, we've got 100 rupees to spend. Should we spend it on the big G, Google, or the big F, Facebook? So this is for that audience. What works for you, Sonali? Is it Google? Is it Facebook? Is it another platform that you would recommend for the audience to try and test out?
So clearly, yeah, Prashant, the focus is to reach out to the consumer in the best possible way on the right platforms. So whereas sometimes the need is to clearly, yes, of course, generate more and more sales. So we do utilize, of course, Google search more to lead out to that in-market audience base. So while works best for us, but yes, of course, the new platforms such as Google Discovery ads have been working very phenomenally best for us. And why not much of Facebook, I would say, because my consumer or my prospective base is more of people, those who are not into driving through just buying advertisement. So they need to be more, they have investigational skills. So they always search for best on the web, which is the best product with this XYZ feature. So if you guys are looking out for the best dishwasher today, so you would add, with the best place settings, with the steam function, with 99.9% of bacteria killing adaptivity. So these are few nuances which we have to keep in point while we draft a particular perfect marketing mix. So yes, searches have been giving us appropriate results, In fact, in my category from March onwards, there has been an increase in 25% of search keywords. So we are banking more upon the brand search keywords. And of course, so we have two type of durables here. One is, of course, the premium segment, which only focuses upon very high class and premium consumers. So for them, mostly the best thing which works out is more of live testimonials with the brand advocates such as architects, interior designers. So we have been indulging on those platforms more than the generic platforms. So that is what is driving us more results. And especially if you talk about festival, everybody wants to know what is the new feature in this particular XYZ washing machine, which is the new thing which is being launched. So yes, the virtual mediums today is very best to converse those new launches with my audience base. And not just that, it is the users also come in front, like the first users, and we try and get those user generated content also placed. So the question is not to choose from Facebook or Google, but yes, what works best according to the particular marketing funnel, because we have to reach out to the consumer at every stage, not just only for prospecting for sales. We have to keep him interested and be more loyalist for the next of the appliances which will be launching in the coming year. Let's say about connected appliances. So if the user is already using my product, it becomes easier for me to pitch and give him understanding of how this particular appliance will function in a connected atmosphere. So we have to look in a long-term aspect, and that's what the key decision criteria for me is.
Got it. Jay, your thoughts? Google, Facebook, content.
You know, on content, you know, it's interesting. You're probably aware the whole mask space is a very crowded space. Everybody's got a tailor at home. So, you know, the whole content is very important to differentiate a high-performing mask with, you know, high efficacy, and the technicals of the product from, you know, the cloth mask that a tailor is producing, you know, at home or in a garments factory, right? Certainly, in the past 6 to 8 months, Facebook has performed better for us. Probably so because it's a very visual product. You know, it appears on your feed or whatever. It's just easier to kind of engage with it. However, you know, I think things will be different now with the peak air pollution season, and there's going to be a lot of news, information, people going to sites where there's air quality information and whatnot. I think moving forward, it might be slightly different, but so far it's been Facebook that's been better for us. Yeah.
Wherever your 2 cents here on Google versus Facebook.
So really, you know, for us, we've kept it slightly more simpler. Yeah, we follow the old principle of reaching the right person at the right time, using the right channel with the right content. You know, that's how we try and optimize. So really, these are big platforms for us. I mean, we have a reach ask, an in-market audience ask, and a remarketing ask. Equally invested in the big G and the big F, as you know, you call it sometimes, Prashant. Kicked off our efforts with Facebook only the last 24 to 36 months, but we've seen serious optimization gain on that platform. So that's actually quite cool, actually. That being said, you know, the auction on Facebook is much more quickly than Google, in my experience, during festive season. I mean, all the big boys, the moment they start dipping in with the big billion day and you know, the big Amazon sale, I mean, I see the media call just shoots up much faster on Facebook than it does on Google. So that tells us something. We for quality codes, and both the biddable platforms have been delivering well for us on prospecting and remarketing. So honestly, equally invested. From a incremental opportunity, I think what we have seen some great experiences with the big A, that's Amazon on top funnel. I think it's extremely good targeting algos. I mean that's paid dividends to us in the last 6 months. It's worked pretty well for us, actually. I think the one platform that we've been contemplating, debating, deliberating is really the OTT. Given the current connected TV country, especially in our segment, the only problem we keep deliberating with these platforms are, as a digital marketer, you want more control, you want biddable audiences, which right now I think some of these OTT platforms are not willing to give you. So it becomes almost like an impact buy than a biddable media, which kind of constrains us on there. But I think both Big F and Big G, I think they have their walled gardens, so the remarketing challenge is always there. I wish the walled gardens were had some bridges, and and there was genuinely some tool that could help me out there. I wish, but that's okay. That being said, we know how this ecosystem operates, so really good experience on both.
Namit, where does PayU spend all of its money?
We love the Big G, we love the Big F, we love the Big A, we love a bunch of other platforms. We are also on LinkedIn. Yeah, to be very honest, it completely depends on what the intent is. Currently, we work with all, right? So we spend, I wouldn't say equally, we spend a decent amount on Facebook, on Google. On Google, the idea is very, very simple, right? What we're looking at Google is we're looking to capture, let's say, the intent. So here you're saying, you're going out and just like Sonali mentioned, you're going and looking for keywords, you're looking for something very, very specific, or we are looking at the Google Ad Network to do that. We're also doubling that with YouTube, right? So what we do is that while Google is great to go ahead and drive you to take an action or drive you to a page, YouTube can also do that, but also builds a certain amount of brand affinity, right? So you have your pre-roll, like I said, completely depends. For us, that definitely works. On Facebook, what I have seen is that Facebook has great targeting. We love that. We're able to, go down to say interest, or we're able to look at affinity, we're able to look at likes, and we're able to then go down and say, great, this is for PayU, right? For our customers, what we've seen, by customers, I mean merchants who we power, we've seen that they prefer Facebook and Instagram for the ability to target basis certain particular keywords or particular interests. It quickly converts. Instagram is picking up very, very quickly, right? So a lot of the merchants, even the large ones that we speak to, Instagram is has a form factor which enables you to not just, so anyway, scrolling through stories, you're doing that, and while you're doing that, you're able to see a new mask, or you're able to see a new dope for home, whatever it is, right? It's built for that sort of consumption. I don't know if a lot of purchase decisions with high intent come up on Instagram, but if it's something that's in the back of your mind, or even for purchases that you might put down, or like Weber mentioned in the beginning, carpe diem purchases, right? Small things, but you're happy to go ahead, $3,000 to $5,000, happy to do that. Instagram has started giving very, very strong ROI to our merchants at our end. We also look at LinkedIn along with Google and Facebook, because we're looking at a certain type of audience, and those usually LinkedIn is able to let us do that much better. So that's where we see ourselves.
Awesome. I will now move to our final question. I know we're up close to the hour, and then we'll open it up for questions for the audience if they have any for our panelists here. So the final one that at least I kind of find myself a number of times is should we be investing in influencer marketing, and B, how do you track it? Does it work? Does it fit under the brand side of marketing? Does it fit in the performance? How should we look at influencer marketing, right? And I think we've touched upon some sort of influencer marketing in our conversations with Sonali, who mentioned, thought leaders within the, the home appliance space. Namit, you touched upon it also inadvertently. So, with that, I'll kind of would love everyone to, chime into this. Does influencer marketing work? How should you look at it? Should it be part of your brand management? Should it be part of your performance or quasi? Wherever we'll start with you.
Prashant, I think I am slightly more inclined towards, influencer marketing for a brand-led message. It usually works well than for a performance-led message in our experience. That's really an hypothesis. We haven't really tried performance marketing through an influencer, but we've tried loads of brand messaging through influencers. I think it's the most critical piece in this is the influencer has to be leveraged for their own persona and not a force fit. I think that's like you
Nice.
cannot tinker with that rule. I mean, you have a message, the influencer has a different persona. You like the influencer, please let go. I think that's the biggest mistake a lot of brands make. We've done that in the past. It doesn't work. I mean, you cannot have a stand-up influencer, a stand-up comedian talking about life insurance. It doesn't work. Yeah, we've tried it, right? So really, but for example, foraying into wellness ecosystem, that's something very critical for us as we move forward as a brand for Max Life. The whole health and wellness ecosystem, our core brand message of you are the difference, emphasizing on the customer's own, that the customer is the hero. You are the hero. It's not the product or the category that's the hero, but it's the customer who's the hero. The guy or the girl who earns the money and brings happiness home, is the hero. And they are more important than the money they bring, right? That's the whole message that we kind of bring out. And in that ecosystem, for example, we tied up with Mandira very well for us because she's like an expert or someone who can very credibly endorse a message like health and wellness, and it's worked very well for us on channel marketing, on BTL marketing, even in terms of our, reaching out to our existing audiences, customers. So really, as long as the persona of the influencer works with your larger brand message, sure. Performance, I haven't tried, so really it will be unfair for me to comment on that. We haven't really tried it.
Awesome. Okay. Nirmal, since a lot of the influencer marketing happens within the Facebook ecosystem, what are your thoughts? It works, doesn't work? How should brands leverage it more? What are they doing amiss?
Yeah, I really, I actually wanted to build on something that Namit and some of the others had spoken about, especially while you're talking about IG. Now, okay, let's just talk about Instagram in particular. So 90% of the people on Instagram follow a business. 55% say they come to Instagram to interact with creators. Creators is our word for influencer, celebrity, and all that. And when businesses and creators come together, that's what we call this product called branded content. So this is the format which allows advertisers to promote creators' posts, feed, or stories ads. So, for example, Disha Patani, I think somebody on the call is typing a lot. If you could go on mute, please. So say, for instance, if Disha Patani can post something about Myntra, and ordinarily this would be organic, but now Myntra can promote Disha's post through feed and stories. So this kind of content, branded content, has become effective, especially in these times of social distancing, since there are restrictions on visiting retail stores. Last month alone, I've seen influencers being used as game changers by all the usual suspects, which is e-com, Amazon, Tata Click, Myntra, and even very traditional CPG brands like Colgate, for example, have used Indrani Biswas, Sunita Kaushik for Durga Puja. So yeah, it most definitely does work as evidenced on our platforms. So that would be my sum up of it.
Jay, you're an influencer yourself within the space, right? And you wanna look for influencers. So how does that fit in? How do you do that?
It's been a mixed bag for us, to be honest, Prashant. And I think every time I've kind of done unpaid collaboration with people that actually care about health and well-being, it's worked well. Every time we've kind of followed that, hey, this person has a huge following and whatnot, and let's do a paid collaboration. I mean, it's completely bombed. It's bombed to the point that we haven't even used the content. We paid the influencer, and we said, let's just put this content into a black hole because it's not us. And I'd hate, for people to see this content because it seems fake, because the person doesn't care about health and well-being, and they just kind of, saying stuff like a parrot. and it just doesn't do anybody any good to have that kind of content out there. So just a word of caution there. I think definitely it works, but you need to find people who represent your values, that care about the things you care about.
Yeah. Amit, your thoughts on influencer marketing?
Absolutely. So, as compared to the other panelists here, we are slightly different because we are B2B. The ones we want to rather, I wouldn't even say influence, the ones where we want to build consideration is ideally going to come from extremely high trust. And it's also going to come from extremely high referral, right? Like Weber mentioned in the past. And hence, most of our influencers are actually existing merchants. Right, so these are people who have used it, who are telling me how they have used it. We're looking at very specific things that we've solved for them, and they're happy to say that, hey, I'm not doing this because I'm getting paid for it, but I'm doing this because it worked for me, and I'm happy to share that with you. And for us, that really drives the engine, and that's how we look at influencer marketing, because we're primarily B2B, and I don't see us engaging with any of the other sort of B2C influencers. In the past, we have experimented with, let's say if you were going to go into a new segment, and are there people who hold a certain amount of trust in that segment? So for example, if you were going to go with supply chain payments, or if you were going to go into a segment which would where the current people who influence your decisions there are CAs, would it make sense to go and speak to a few CAs and then have them talk about how this as a tool, or this as a service, or this as a platform works? We have experimented with things like that, but largely, to be very honest, our best, I wouldn't even say ROI, but our best brand impact has come from using, or rather collaborating with existing merchants to just talk about how it's been, very honestly. And if things don't work, great, tell me that. I will figure out how we can, share that with others. But otherwise, it's just been those influencers which are existing users who we've then amplified out in multiple ways, right? So text, video, whatever, it works at different, and then we've taken those across different channels, as well as different stages of the consideration, and that's worked. So we've looked at existing merchants as influencers, and that's worked for us.
Very thought leadership driven. Yeah. Sonali, closing statements on influencer marketing.
So that is one of my most cost-effective medium in my marketing mix, and it has always given us appropriate results, because in our case it works two ways. Most of our influencers are consumers as well for the appliances and home appliances both. So both celebrity influencers as well as micro influencers are very key and vital. And it depends on the kind of season you are choosing your influencer campaign to be rolled out, especially if it is around the festival. So we are planning to do it with micro influencers, which would be more vernacular in the reach, because that's what works best for our country. Everybody is more closely related with the ethos and culture when it comes to festival, food, and recipes. So that's where we are vouching more from them. And of course, the IG format is working very wonderful in my case. So that's what I would say. They would remain to be more relatable, more cost effective going forward. And yes, it helps to give a certain brand exposure to any of the categories. And that's very easy and convenient medium, because you look out for the influencers, you can have it in all across the diverse audiences, not just metros. There are young influencers, those who are followed by tier 2 and tier 3 city residents as well. So that's where our new audiences lie. So we don't want to miss upon that kind of an audience. So yes, whether it is increasing in number of followers or giving me more sales leads, So it works all the ways for us. And yes, for festival, we are closely utilizing them, and a bigger chunk of my spend is going to be parked for influencer campaign.
Awesome. Great. Thanks so much, guys. This is super informative. Thanks for being part of this and taking out time to speak to all the attendees here. We have a question here, so we'll take that and then we'll kind of wrap this up. We've got a question from Nidul Deka about what platform for digital marketing would you suggest for a security guard service company, right? So security guard could be both B2B as well as B2C. So I don't think you mentioned that, but anyone wants to kind of take that up? All marketing czars here, so.
I think this is a question for you, Prashant. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not a marketing guy, so I think this is yours.
Yeah, and I don't think I'll have the credibility because I'll only push my company.
I was actually, so Nirmal, I was actually going to go against FP for once here. I feel security guard is one of those, non-sexy realms. You need it. You kind of search for it on Google. You get a good landing page. It talks about how secure, all sort of 5 key drivers, and boom, you fill up a form and you talk to folks versus, scrolling through IG and FB and seeing, security guards, which I think this is a little bit more intent driven. So if you were to ask me, if you got $100 to spend, I'll probably spend 70 on Google and 30 on Facebook and see where that gets me. Great. Okay, guys. So I want to thank all of you, Amit, Jay, Sonali, Nirmal, Weber, for taking time to speak with us. And stay well, stay safe. And thank you once again.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Prashant. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Nice seeing you.
Thank you, Prashant. Thank you, everyone. Yeah.